Special thanks to Horizon Therapeutics for sponsoring today's Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast. Working tirelessly to research, develop, and bring forward medicines for people living with rare and rheumatic diseases. Discover more about Horizon Therapeutics' mission at horizontherapeutics.com.
Get out there and get involved if you're an adult living with special needs and you have the capacity to do it. And if you're a kid living with special needs and have the capacity to do it, go out there and find something to do and get engaged in the community. And even if you don't want to do it for yourself as a parent, do it for the kid, because it will make all the difference in the world.
That's Jeremy Meinhardt. Jeremy and his wife Meg have two children, Beck, 15, and Nellie, 12, who has Spina Bifida. We'll hear about Jeremy, his dad, his family, and how Nellie loves to play wheelchair basketball. That's all on this Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast. Say hello to David Hirsch.
Hi, and thanks for listening to the Dad to Dad podcast, Fathers Mentoring Fathers of Children with Special Needs, presented by the Special Fathers Network.
The Special Fathers Network is a dad-to-dad mentoring program for fathers raising children with special needs. Through our personalized matching process, new fathers with special needs children connect with mentor fathers in a similar situation. It's a great way for dads to support dads. To find out more, go to 21stcenturydads.org.
And if you're a dad looking for help or would like to offer help, we'd be honored to have you join our closed Facebook group. Please go to facebook.com/groups and search Dad to Dad.
And now let's listen to this conversation between David Hirsch and Jeremy Meinhardt.
I'm thrilled to be talking today with Jeremy Meinhardt of Bartlett, Illinois, who's a father of two and a financial advisor with Edward Jones and Company. Jeremy, thank you for taking the time to do a podcast interview for the Special Fathers Network.
You bet, David. I'm honored to be here and seeing the list of guests you've interviewed over the past couple of years, so thank you.
You and your wife, Meg, have been married for 16 years and are the proud parents of two children, son Beck, who's 15, and daughter Nellie, who's 12, who also has Spina Bifida. Let's start with some background. Where did you grow up? Tell me something about your family.
Sure. So, David, I grew up in a town called Jefferson City, Missouri. It's about halfway between KC and St. Louis, which is about half an hour south of both of them. I lived in Jeff until I was about 20 and moved to Lawrence to go to school. Went to the University of Kansas there. After graduating KU, moved out to Breckenridge for the ski season, although I will say it was a short season because about 2-3 months into it, I broke my ankle and had to move back to Kansas City to get my ankle operated on because of insurance reasons. Still under my dad's insurance at the time. After the operation, then I moved back to Jeff, lived with my mom for a while, about 6 months, in fact, while my ankle healed up. While I was in Jeff, I got a temporary job. I met a young lady named Alyssa. She was just graduating from Central Missouri State University. She was also trying to get back up to Kansas City, and so we moved up. While up there, right after I got up there, actually, I ran into an old college buddy of mine named Klaus, and he was working at Sprint, or the company formerly known as Sprint, and turned my resume in, so I was able to secure a job with Sprint. And I was there for about 4.5 years. While there, I worked on my master's at University of Missouri, then KC. And after about 4.5 years and finishing my MBA, I left Sprint and moved into my brother's apartment, who lived in Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, California. He let me sleep on his couch for about 6 months while I was get my feet underneath me. Lived out there for about 5 years before moving to Bartlett in 2015, which is where I live today with Megan and Beck and Nellie.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the quick flyby.
Sure.
I'd like to go back, though. My recollection was when you were growing up, you had a younger sibling.
Yeah, Ryan. That's who I moved. That's whose couch I was on for a while. He's about 3.5 years younger than me. He's actually he was in LA until about 6 months ago. He just moved to Salt Lake.
And is your dad still alive? What does he do, or what did he do for a living as well?
Sure. So my dad lives in Sarasota, Florida, and he actually worked at United Telephone. He worked the larger part of his professional career there. So it just so happened to be that we both worked at Sprint, but that's what he did the largest portion of his career is working United or Telecom.
Excellent.
Sure.
So how would you describe your relationship with your dad?
I think it's good. We talk every 2 to 3 weeks. Last time I spoke with him, I shouldn't say the last time, probably within the last 6 or 8 weeks, one of our conversations was trying to get us or plan a trip to go hike a little bit of the Appalachian Trail, meeting in Georgia. My brother coming in from Utah, me from here in Illinois, and him from Florida, meeting in northern Georgia, I guess is where the trailhead is, and try to do some hiking there. We had a couple stories doing some hikes as a family. He and my brother and I did the Grand Canyon rim to rim, about 10 or 15 years ago as well. So trying to do a reunion tour of that, even though we've got some years under our heels now.
It sounds like your dad must be pretty fit if he's doing things like that with you guys.
Yeah, I'd say he's in pretty good shape for his age, for sure.
Okay. I'm wondering if there's an important takeaway or two when you think about your dad that you've tried to incorporate into your own fathering or something that sticks with you.
Yeah, so since we originally spoke, David, I thought about it. Growing up, our family was very typical, I think, the unit that it was. But I did have a couple of good memories that stick out for sure. When I was growing up, and we went to the Lake of the Ozarks a lot. My dad's mother, Nellie, she actually had a cabin down there. It was one of the first on the Lake of the Ozarks. And so him growing up down there, we were only about 30 miles from there, being in Jeff City, and we would spend, it seems like, every weekend in the summer down there. And he and my uncles and my cousins, we were always out on the water. And one of the things that I know he had the patience to do was teach me how to water ski. And as an adult now, I look back and having kids of my own, how hard it is to maintain patience sometimes with things that seem to be easy but are really pretty complicated. And I remember him sitting in the water with me and my cousin and my uncle, and just helping us get up on the water skis, both the double and slalom. So that's one of my good memories. And I think taken out of that would be just the patience that he had with me, and kind of what I aspire to have with my kids as well. And I know I struggle with that at times, for sure.
Yeah, well, when I think about the 4 universal characteristics that all great dads possess, patience is right up there at the list of the top 4. Love, honesty, commitment would be the ones that round it out. So you mentioned you went to University of Kansas, so you're a Jayhawk. I remember you got a degree in business. You talked a little bit about your career. What I remembered was you spent 15 or 20 years in medical sales, and then you shifted gears more recently. And I'm wondering what motivated the shift, and what is it that you're doing now?
Sure. So as you kind of let off at the onset, I work for Edward Jones, and I'm a financial advisor. And I love managing money. People will attest to that. I love being able to make it, organize it, save it. What I like about it is that I think if people can get control of their finances and their budget, it allows you to free up time to enjoy the things that maybe bring more happiness in your life, which would be family and friends and experiences. And I think it's more difficult for some than others to really get a good grip of it and keep control of it. And that's what I like about being a financial advisor.
Excellent. So how long have you been an advisor with Edward Jones?
It's 2 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sort of curious to know, how is it that you and Meg met?
Sure. So we were at Kansas, the University of Kansas, at the same time. However, we never ran into each other, didn't run in the same circles. So when I was out of Kansas and back from Breckenridge, I was working at Sprint. And one of my positions at Sprint, I worked with a young lady named Jenny, and Jenny was roommates with Megan and a couple of other folks. And at that point, we all kind of ran in the same circles. We're at the same places on the weekends. And so Jenny at some point had tried to set Megan and I up, and I don't think either of us were really ready for it initially. But after a couple of years, we finally went out, and ultimately that's how we met. Been together really ever since. So going on 17, 18, I guess close to 20 years now, actually, that we've been together and married the 16.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Of course.
Let's switch gears and talk about special needs first on a personal level and then beyond. So out of curiosity, how did the spina bifida diagnosis come about, and what was your first reaction to that?
Well, I mean, right now when you talk about spina bifida, I think, and I don't know the statistics, but generally it's fairly common for folks to know that diagnosis is coming, so you have time to prepare for it and make decisions about how you're going to prepare for it prior to birth. It's a little different for Megan and I, though. So for the pregnancy with Nellie was very typical, meaning that there were no complications. And I would even say that the birth of Nellie went as planned, quick and easy. And I say that knowing that Megan's going to disagree that it probably was neither quick nor easy. But relative to our first child, Beck, she was with labor with a little bit longer for sure. I feel like everything was good. And, and at this point, the attending physician had taken Nellie over to the table, which is typically done, right? So the nurse and the doctor will take over to the heated table where there's a light. They're checking out the baby, checking out Nellie to make sure everything's okay. And the primary OB that we were seeing was not on call, so it was an attending OB that we had not met yet or met before. And so really it shouldn't be an issue. Very nice guy, a very competent guy, but not having any idea what was coming, I think, was shockwaves for all of us, right? So back to the table now where they're looking at Nellie, he and the nurse. Again, everything is fine. And as time moves forward, you kind of expect, okay, we're bring the baby back over, we get to hold Nellie, everything's okay. But that's not really what happened. Instead, what happened was the room seemingly, as I remember it, got deadly silent because the doctor was looking at the nurse was looking around, and they kind of motioned to me, come over very quietly. Can you come over to the table? We need to talk to you. Trying to explain to me in layman terms, without any prompting or preparation, right, what was going on, which was that Nellie was born with spina bifida, L5S1. So the defect is at the very, very base of her back. But again, none of this means anything to me. And I don't think you could have explained it simply enough to make me understand what was going on or Megan to go on. So, of course, at that point, panic starts to set in as well between me and Megan because you just don't understand it. Fast forward a little bit. What happens is Nellie is taken into kind of a formal or informal ICU, if you will, because Nellie was born at one of the northwestern suburb hospitals. They didn't have the capacity to give her the treatment that was needed from that point going forward. So at that point, the conversations turned into, here's what we are dealing with, here's what the situation is, it's spina bifida, but we can't treat it here. We're going to send you to our sister facility, which at that time was Lutheran General. Meg, of course, could not leave the hospital, so I followed Nellie in the car while she was in an ambulance, and we went to Lutheran General where they had to close her back, right? Because what spina bifida is, and we can go into it in more detail, but really it's a defect that leaves the spine open. So it didn't completely develop. And there's different stages or different types of it, but I'll try to pronounce hers as myeliomeningocele is what hers was. So she had an opening in her back, and her spine never fully formed because of it, leaving nerves exposed. So we were at Lutheran General for, I believe, about 28 days, but that first night was the most tenuous one, clearly, because I was there by myself. I didn't know what was going on. Megan was left with her sister at the hospital, at the delivering hospital. We were in contact to some extent, but at the back, at least at the point when I was at Lutheran General with Nellie 12 years ago, the NICU was in the far corner of a hospital. Cell reception was not good, so the communication was not that good at that point. Again, this is 12 years ago. But I never forget, as I'm coming around the corner, pacing around the hallway, and I look up and I see my brother-in-law, Kurt, there. And I'll never be able to repay him or thank him enough for showing up because he really helped get me through those hours that I was there all by myself. And I love the guy because of it. He's like a brother to me. So that really helped me get through that first day. I was there that night. Sunday, that next day, Megan was released and she was able to come to the hospital, to Lutheran General. And that's where we spent, like I said, about the next 28 days, one of us, both of us, in some shape or form in the NICU with her. And then after 28 days and 3 surgeries to close her spine and a shunt placement and other procedures I'm sure I'm forgetting about, she was released and we were able to take her home. But it's definitely a trying time, not helped by the fact that we did not expect it, for sure.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you might have been blindsided. You didn't know it was coming. And it sounds like a very precarious situation with Meg still at the hospital, the delivery hospital, and then you shuttling over to Lutheran General with the baby. And like you described what transpired, it's just, it seemed like a surreal experience.
It is, like the days, we just don't know. Like you're trying to learn all you can about what spina bifida is. And at that point, you're pulling up what you can read on the internet and who's got it that you might know of out there and what it means. But you don't know what it means because it's something different for everyone. Even if the defect is in the same spot, it's something different for everyone. And so the good thing about it is generally, children with spina bifida, there's dark days and weeks and months after that. But, as you get into later in a better part of a year and the years that follow, things are good. Life is good. Nellie's healthy. But you're right. It's a very precarious situation, not knowing what's coming. So
if you can put yourself back to that first 6 months or so, what were some of the concerns or fears that you and Meg had at that point in time?
Well, it's a good question, David. It's like you don't know what you don't know. So you have 6 months to talk to doctors about SB. You've got 6 months to talk to other people that are working with SB. You've got 6 months to talk to nurses that know about SB and read about it. But the concerns were interesting. Initially my biggest concern was mobility. Megan's concern was cognitive function. And so you try to box in really what you should and should not be focusing on really, but it's just the overall health in general. It can't be one specific thing you're worried about. It can't be mobility or cognitive function. It's just overall general health. But you find myself and Megan and I both found ourselves just focusing on specific little things, like I said, mobility, cognitive function, those types of things. And you spend all your time wondering, what if we would have known? Could we have done in utero surgery? Would that have changed things? You ask yourself all of these things.
Yeah, well, you can't go back. You can't change what's transpired. You can only, go forward with the situation you have. So you don't want to spend too much time in the coulda, woulda, shoulda, situation. And I'm wondering if there's any meaningful advice that you got early on that helped put your minds at ease or give you some sense of direction with this all.
Yeah, the one thing I remember, and it's out a few years now from those times we were just talking about, was when we were getting Nellie ready to go to preschool, and one of our early intervention folks from the state came in and was talking. It's like, look, Nellie is your kid. You know what's better for her than anyone. Make sure that you're trusting your instinct and you're doing what you can to get her the services and the things that you need or that you think she needs. And so that'd be the one thing that comes to my mind as you ask that question is trust your gut as a parent and move forward all of the time based on what you know to be right. Even if it may turn out to appear to be burdensome on the folks you're asking to do it, trust your gut and do it because even if it's burdensome, if it's nonsensical, it doesn't matter because it'll be forgotten as soon as you ask the question if it doesn't make sense. So just trust your gut and move forward with it.
So not to focus on the negative, but what have been some of the bigger challenges that you faced, that Nellie's faced for that matter?
Well, some of the challenge for Nellie really is it's mobility, right? Bladder control and mobility are the two biggest challenges that face children with SB, or the most common. I shouldn't say the biggest, but the most common. But it's what she knows, so she just moves forward with it. She's got a great personality. Things do not stop her. She's able to shake things, any challenges off or disappointments or frustrations off very easily and move forward. And so I think that Megan and I have done a good job of kind of instilling that in her and pushing her and holding her accountable to grow and develop like we would our son Beck. And maybe that goes back to your question earlier about what advice we would give. And that would be to not overcompensate for any of the challenges that these kids have, because my opinion, Megan's opinion only, so take it how you will, listeners, but ultimately the goal for kids should for them to reach their full potential, whatever it may be. And again, it's going to vary by kid, but our expectation for Nellie is full independence, out there moving and living on her own. And it's very difficult sometimes to discipline your kids just in general because you love them. But with Nellie, she has to work harder for things. But you really have to discipline kids and hold them accountable because you want them and push them, really, I guess is the best way to describe it. Push them to where you know or you think they can be because they deserve it. They deserve to reach their full potential. And that's the only way is if you just continue to push them. You're going to have folks out there that see them and want to give them extra help or extra support. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's good, but it can't be the expectation. The kids have to have expectations of themselves that they're going to achieve things. I'm not sure if I'm describing it the right way, but push these kids, push them.
Yeah, well, if I can paraphrase what you've said, you want to have the same high standards or expectations you'd have for your son as you do for your daughter.
Absolutely.
And it seems counterintuitive at some level to hold your daughter who might be a little bit more frail or might be more challenged to the same high standard. But if you overcompensate, using your own phrase, what you're in effect doing over the long term is further handicapping her. And I think what I heard you say is that you don't want to further handicap your child by overcompensating.
You've said it better than I do, David. That's exactly it. Give them every opportunity they deserve.
So I'm sort of curious to know what impact Nellie's situation has had on her older brother, Beck.
Well, Megan and I talk about this for sure. Ultimately, I think what it does for Beck, and it's done for Megan and I, it just makes a person, it makes you more empathetic and understanding and open-minded to things. You give yourself a different perspective on way to see things in life, because you do have to make accommodations in certain situations for just to do things. So I would think it's just made us more empathetic and open-minded individuals. That for Beck is for sure. I think he's going to grow up a better person because of it.
Yeah, well, how could you not? In most cases, he's the older brother anyway, right? One of the responsibilities, whether we want to admit it or not, because I had a younger brother, is that we're supposed to look out for them.
Clearly.
And, you had that experience. You had a younger brother as well. And I know that you probably mixed it up with your younger brother, when you were younger, just like we all do. But, if you're an older brother to a sister, right, there's this sort of, hey, I need to look out for her and make sure that, nobody steps on her or takes advantage of her or says something that, would be inappropriate. So I think there's a certain level of maturity that goes along with being an older sibling, and then beyond when you're an older sibling to a brother or sister that has some different challenges.
Yeah, it's important too, because we talked to Beck about it as well. He's dealing with things that other kids and his friends with siblings are not going to have to deal with, and that's just part of it. This is our family dynamic. But he's a phenomenal kid too. So, but yeah, he's going to grow up better because of we all are.
Excellent. So I'm thinking about supporting organizations, and I'm wondering what organizations have you and your family relied on?
Sure, right. The Spina Bifida Association, the Illinois Spina Bifida Association has been in our lives ultimately since probably even before year one. And Megan was more quickly to adopt onto it, and that's because of the chat groups and the ability to meet with folks that are in similar circumstances. And from our perspective, that would be other parents that have children with spina bifida. And it really is for anybody that's dealing with any challenges, find an organization that is can relate to what you're going through at this point, and talk to people about it, because it helps immensely. Because as a parent, it helps you understand one, you're not the only one going through it. As your kids get older, they'll see they're not the only ones going through it. But it also can help you accomplish things without maybe failing as many times at it, because you get to talk to people that have gone through and worked through the same challenges and situations that you have. And so the ISBA has been a big part of our lives the entire 12 years, and I anticipate that it will be.
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing. And I'm wondering if there's any other organizations that have played an important role in your family or on Nellie's behalf.
I mean, ultimately, when I think of the organizations involved, it's our family unit, both extended and direct, as well as the ISBA. Those are the two that really helped out. What I will do is give credit also to the school district. They have been unbelievable in their support, both emotionally and structurally, for what Nellie's been able to accomplish. We feel lucky to have had and continue to have the individuals within the school district that are helping Nellie, helping make her life better, making everyone's lives better.
Are there any other organizations that have played an important role?
Yeah, and I would be remiss not to talk about, it's called Synergy, which is a blend of Western DuPage and Northeastern DuPage Special Recreation Associations. Nellie plays wheelchair basketball through there, and it serves very much the same purpose that the ISBA does, at least from a personal standpoint, and that is that it brings you together with other parents, not just with SB, but other parents dealing with other challenges with their children. But again, it also brings children together, and brought Nellie together with her best friend Tessa. And it's a great way for kids to see not only that they're not the only ones that have struggles, but you watch the older kids that are part of these wheelchair basketball tournaments and what they're accomplishing and what that leads to beyond even the special rec associations and into college athletics and Olympics down the road. They get to see what can be achieved, and there really should be no limitations given the challenges that they're facing. So Nedra and the wheelchair basketball programs and Synergy has been a phenomenal thing for us and all the kids involved.
That's fabulous. Thanks for sharing. It reminds me that there's a number of dads in the network that have a older child with spina bifida. And one that comes to mind is Greg Chalmers, who's the dad, and then his son Ryan, who's probably 30-something now. And he was diagnosed from the time of birth with spina bifida as well. Lots of surgeries, crazy situation. But they dropped him off at school at the University of Illinois, and they didn't see him for like 7 years. I mean, they see him around the holidays, but, he was totally focused on being independent, wheelchair basketball, and he just really thrived in an athletic environment. Not all kids are athletic, obviously, but to your point, you don't want to put any cap on your child, right? You just want to expose them to as many things as you can, find something that they're enthusiastic about, and it's not so much the competition, but they realize that there's other people like themselves, and they have to compensate. We all have to compensate for whatever our shortcomings are, and some are a little bit more obvious than others. So I'm hoping that those experiences that Nellie's getting are going to, accumulate, build a foundation that she can operate from for the rest of her life.
Well, you mentioned a nice thing too, David. It isn't just all those things I mentioned are fantastic, but it also is that sense of competitiveness, and it kind of gets that goes to the teamwork, and it gets them involved because there aren't as many opportunities, or at least there seemingly aren't as many opportunities for kids with special needs to get involved. But they're out there; they're just not as obvious. They're a little more difficult to find, and you might have to travel a little bit farther to get to them. Luckily, that we all live in Chicagoland, and so there's 4 different basketball programs, and the different special rec departments. They have so many things beyond basketball that kids can get involved with. Typically, basketball is where they start, and then they kind of evolve into hockey or track or archery, all of these other things that are out there. So they get the same sense and the same benefits from it. Kids that are typical kids working in your typical sporting programs as well. It's a huge benefit, again, for the kids and the parents, because it's great to just meet with people that you have shared experiences with.
Yeah, well, you don't know what it's going to lead to, and that's what the exciting part of it is. And not to harp too much on the Chalmers situation, but Ryan got involved with something called Stay Focused, which is this scuba diving program. And you're thinking, well, geez, how could a kid with spina bifida or a young adult with spina bifida go scuba diving? Right? It just seems so far-fetched. There's a lot of typical people that have never been scuba diving anything more than snorkeling, right? It seems so complex. And it is, but it isn't, right? And again, not everybody has an interest in doing water sports. There's a different element of risk there too. But it's just another reminder that, never say never, right? There's a lot of possibilities out there.
I mean, kids teach me that all the time. Both Beck and Nellie make me better, more patient, and to see what they're able to do. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you 100%, David.
So I'm thinking about advice, and I'm wondering if there's any additional important takeaways that come to mind when raising a child with special needs.
I mean, the one thing that I'm really big on, and I've kind of touched on it earlier, is get out there and get involved. If you're an adult living with special needs and you have the capacity to do it, and if you're a kid living with special needs and have the capacity to do it, go out there and find something to do and get engaged in the community. And this, theoretically speaking, I believe that a lot of the big challenges with getting kids, special needs involved is the parents. The parents coming to grips with the fact that they need to do it. It took me time to come to grips with the fact that Nellie may be in a wheelchair, maybe in a sticks. Those things are difficult. And as a parent, once you come to grips with that, then you have to understand that it's going to be additional work. You might have to drive a little farther to get to sporting events. You might have to look a little harder to find those activities that you can do. But they're out there. But and even if you don't want to do it for yourself as a parent, do it for the kid, because it will make all the difference in the world. We've met kids that are not involved versus kids that are involved. I mean, the attitudes are different. And that's, again, I think this with typical kids and kids with special needs, get your kids involved. But with respect to this conversation, find something to get them engaged in, meet other friends, hang out, and just be part of a group.
Yeah, great advice. Get involved, stay engaged, and make the extra effort.
Yes. Absolutely.
You'd like to think that that's what all parents are doing, whether they have typical or atypical kids. But, life gets busy. Life can be stressful. Sometimes there's some financial aspects involved. And, it's like you're making an investment, right? Not to bring it back to what we do occupationally, but, you can look at it as an expense, right? That it's, something that's costing money, or you can look at it as an investment, right? And I think the most important thing to do as parents is to invest in your kids. And whether it's their education or their extracurricular activities, we're just providing them with the resources they need to become the best person that they can become. So thanks for sharing.
Yep.
So I'm sort of curious to know, why is it that you've agreed to be a mentor father as part of the Special Fathers Network?
Well, it'll kind of, not to be redundant here, but I want people to understand that as new parents, or maybe parents that have been doing this for a while, that there are others that are going through similar situations. And I want to make sure that if somebody needs to talk to someone, they can do that. And I know you've worked with many different folks, treating many different disease states with many different needs. But if they're specific to SB, please let me know. If it's just about dealing with the challenges that come with having a special needs child, let me know. I'd love to talk to you or listen to you, because I've been through it for 12 years now, and the good far outweighs any of the challenges. So that's why I want to be a part of it, is so that I can help others cope and learn. And to be honest with you, I would like to learn from others, because I know that my experiences are mine. So if anybody has anything to share to help me out, I'd be glad to do that as well.
Yeah, well, we're thrilled to have you. And it's interesting that you were reflecting on the fact that you're volunteering to be a mentor, making yourself available to maybe a younger dad or younger family. And you're acknowledging that, hey, I've only been at it for 12 years, right? We've got a lot of milestones that we're going to be crossing as a family ourselves. And, it wouldn't be shocking to me that, you would connect with a dad who has not just 12 years of experience, maybe 15, 20, or 25 years of experience, right? And give you a little bit of a preview of what's on the road ahead. And maybe, you're serving both roles, right? You're being a mentor to some younger fathers, and you're being a mentee, or you are a mentee, to some other fathers who have a little bit more experience than yourself. So glad that you're part of the group. Thanks for being on the team.
Of course. Thank you.
Let's give a special shout out to our mutual friend, Matt Larson, Executive Director at Illinois Spina Bifida Association, for helping contact us.
Yeah, Matt's a fantastic guy, and he's the perfect person to be running the ISBA. He's passionate about it, he's forward-thinking, and he's going to continue to grow the organization and to fulfill the mission, which is just to help any children, adults, families, and caregivers that are living with spina bifida condition. I mean, he's doing a fantastic job. Would be trouble without him for sure.
So is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Just go back to what I've said a few times is if you've got a kid that's living with some type of a disability, a spina bifida in this perspective, get them involved to the capacity that you can and that they can, because it will make all the difference in your life, their life, and your family's lives to do it. I believe that to be the truth.
Excellent. Well, it's like location, 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 right? You keep reinforcing one of the most important points is to get involved and stay involved. So if somebody wants to learn about Illinois Spina Bifida Association, Synergy, the special rec organization you made reference to, or just to contact you, what's the best way to go about doing that?
Sure. You can reach out to me. I'm at Jeremy K. Meinhardt at yahoo.com. Or you can reach out to or go to the Illinois Spina Bifida Association's website, and it'll direct you to Matt and allow you to get in contact with him and anyone at the organization.
Excellent. We'll be sure to include those in the show notes.
Sure.
Jeremy, thank you for taking the time and many insights. As a reminder, Jeremy is just one of the dads who's part of the Special Fathers Network, a mentoring program for fathers raising a child with special needs. If you'd like to be a mentor father or are seeking advice from a mentor father with a similar situation to your own, please go to 21stCenturyDads.org. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Special Fathers Network podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. As you probably know, the 21st Century Dads Foundation is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization, which means we need your help to keep our content free to all concerned. Would you please consider making a tax-deductible contribution? I would really appreciate your support. Jeremy, thanks again.
Thanks, David. I enjoyed it.
And thank you for listening to the Dad to Dad podcast, presented by the Special Fathers Network. The Special Fathers Network is a dad-to-dad mentoring program for fathers raising children with special needs. Through our personalized matching process, new fathers with special needs children connect with mentor fathers in a similar situation. It's a great way for fathers to support fathers. Go to 21stCenturyDads.org.
And if you're a dad looking for help or would like to offer help, we would be honored to have you join our closed Facebook group. Please go to facebook.com/groups and search Dad to Dad. Also, please be sure to register for the Special Fathers Network bi-weekly Zoom calls held on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. Lastly, we're always looking to share interesting stories. If you'd like to share your story or know of a compelling story, please send an email to david@21stCenturyDads.org.
The Dad to Dad podcast was produced by Couch Audio for the Special Fathers Network. Thanks again to Horizon Therapeutics, who believe that science and compassion must work together to transform lives. That's why they work tirelessly to research, develop, and bring forward medicines for people living with rare and rheumatic diseases. Discover more about Horizon Therapeutics at horizontherapeutics.com.